Welcome to Unmasking, a podcast for those ready to lead, love, and live with more clarity, freedom, and truth. We all wear masks, and they have helped us all to fit in, stay safe, get ahead. But over time, those same masks start to weigh us down. They disconnect us from our joy, our energy, and our true self. This show is an invitation to explore 15 of those masks that we wear to be accepted, admired, or in control, and then to get really curious about what they're really costing us. I'm your host, Barbour, and in each episode, we'll look at one mask and explore what it protects, what it hides, and what's possible without it. I invite you to join me in Unmasking. We'll laugh, we'll probably cringe, but we'll be real. Hi, and welcome to our second episode of Unmasking, and I have the honor and privilege of inviting my friend Donna Placio to join me for a talk about our Caretaker mask. Mm-hmm. And the best way to get to know why we are going to enjoy talking about this so much is that I first met Donna a couple of years ago through a mutual friend. And then after a couple of years, I decided to join. She's leading a forum with as a conscious leadership forum. And then she also is a coach, and she is a beautiful, wonderful human. And I'm honored to have you here. First, I'd love to have you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you for having me. Feeling a lot of joy and excitement around doing this with you. And I might add that more like 2 or 3 people kept saying, you need to meet Anne. So we met a few years ago, which is wonderful. And I'm really enjoying the time we're having together in Forum. As Anne mentioned, I'm a conscious leadership coach, and the work of conscious leadership and conscious leadership group has been transformational for me. So I can't help but want to share it with as many people as I can. I started in my career in the world as a physical therapist for 20 years, and that I loved very much. And through my time there, I was exposed to conscious leadership group and really got to know myself much better. And I left the clinic in probably about 2016. And since then, I have been coaching, leading circles, retreats, and it is something that brings me such joy in life to be able to share these practices and tools. I'm a lifelong learner. I think, Anne, you and I have that in common. And always excited to dive into conversations like we're about to have.
Yeah. And just to circle back, not everyone knows what the conscious leadership group is. Would you just give some examples of some of the commitments that are kind of fun to play with that like make a difference in your life? Because I think it has to do a little bit with masks as well.
Yes. Thank you. So I did my coaches training through the conscious leadership group, and I love thinking about it when I'm introducing to a group. What does it mean to be conscious? I mean, just by definition of the word means to be awake. So a lot about what we do is it's context coaching in the sense of at any given time, I'm being with the world in a certain way. I'm either being with the world in drama and reactivity or trust and curiosity. And we believe that, I believe, I'll just put it that we are the powerful creators of the life in front of us as is. And so we use the tools to develop self-awareness or deeper self-awareness of our patterns so that we can be aware of perhaps how life is happening to us and shift in a way that we are creating a life by us and taking responsibility. So as Anne mentioned, the 15 commitments are a guiding post that we use in our work, in our circle that we work together. And, the very first commitment is taking 100% responsibility for the life you are creating, no more or no less. So that, to me is the most important commitment. And then there's 14 other ones that help support that work. Yeah.
That one's super alive for me too. And I think it's a great bridge into talking about the caretaker mask.
Mm-hmm.
because it's about taking that 100%, no more, no less. And so I guess my first question to you would be is like, what made you choose? I let you choose what mask you wanted to talk about. And
Mm-hmm.
so just tell me more.
Yeah. So, caregiver mask is what we're talking about,
Oh, yeah.
and or helper, and that's a mask that sometimes I don't know where that starts and I end, because I can be so identified with it. And as mentioned in the beginning, Anne, about 100% responsibility. When I'm in drama and in my human, normal, natural condition, most of the time, I am often taking too much responsibility when I'm in caregiver mode. It's either I'm taking too much or not enough, and I'm feeling like a victim. But the mask that you asked, that I kind of gravitate toward caregiver, often I'm taking way too much responsibility in relationships. So, for example, you and I in relationship, the way I love identifying consciousness math is actually different. It's you have 100% responsibility, Anne, and Donna has 100%. So at any given time, if I'm over indexing and in Anne's business and taking too much responsibility, I could be taking 105 or 120, so that, she only has to take 80. So something along those lines. So caregiver, why it speaks to me, in my natural go-to personality structure, I can tend to, when I'm not conscious, when I'm unconscious, I can take too much responsibility often. So,
Mm,
yeah.
makes sense. Me
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
And curious, like when do you think that you learned that mask, or when did that kind of show up in your life?
Yes, that's a great question. And I appreciate the invitation to be with that and go back. And I can't remember a time I was not in that. I am the oldest of 9 children. So, you know, I would say I was had those behaviors before all the rest of the 8 were born, but that definitely reinforced that. I was a little, if you ask my mom, I was like, or ask my siblings, I was like a little drill sergeant sometimes, or a little extra mom on the side. And, really learned early on that no one said this specifically, at least that I would get love and attention and from being needed and taking care of others. So it just naturally was born into that role. And again, I think I would say I was an extension of my parents in some ways, and in a very vibrant, chaotic household. Yeah.
I can't imagine 9. I felt like that with my brothers and I, which was 3. So we were a third of what that energy and dynamics that you had going on. And what
Yeah.
is the age spacing of your siblings, just to get an idea of
So you
9?
make me tell you how old I am, which I'm actually,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm 52. So, and my youngest sister is, let's see, 21 years younger than me. Yeah. So we have a wide range. And I was actually the only child for about 5.5 years. So I did have some time alone, but I learned real fast when my next sister came on how to, you know, she was my little baby as well.
When was the point in your life where you realized there was a crossroads, and that the mask, did you realize even you were wearing, when did you realize
No,
you were wearing the caregiver mask?
no.
Yeah. Did you ever?
Uh, no, yes, obviously now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm doing this work too.
Yeah.
I think I realized in my work with conscious leadership, I started realizing, it really helped cultivate such deep self awareness of personas that we talk about, and then Enneagram. Um, really helped me to see my go to patterns and ways of being, my beliefs, my way of seeing the world. So I guess to answer your question, I must have been in my 40s. I mean, like I'm 52, so it's been in the last 15 years, I would say, that I just started realizing that is not who I actually am. And just as I mentioned, the Enneagram, it's a personality typing system, if you will. And it is one of the most beautiful tools for me of self-awareness. There's 9 different types that we're all parts of, but one that's your go-to and where you gravitate. And so mine just happens to be the helper, the caregiver, Enneagram 2. So when I started being coached myself by some of my amazing mentors, Jim and Diana and Debbie, who also is an Enneagram expert, I started realizing parts about me through that tool that essentially helped me see how I run myself and without even thinking of it. And so once I use tools like that, or like we use the drama triangle for patterns that you're familiar with, there's no way I can interrupt that automatic pattern if I don't know in the first place. So using all of those tools was really helpful for me to witness myself, kind of zoom out. And when I am, especially when I'm under stress, I mean, I can go right into this caregiver mode because that's the way that I'm just so conditioned to being, and I zoom out. Yeah. And I would say, I mean, this is a mask. It can be thought of as a mask or a jacket you put on. Like if we think of the level of persona, it's not really who I am at my essence. I think, any kind of caregiver, sibling, mother sometimes can identify with this kind of way of being. So it's a beautiful part of me and a superpower. And when left to run me versus being chosen by me can feel problematic and not helpful.
Yeah. Let's just play a little bit with what happens when, it's running you. And so what happens, like, what do you notice happening that now that you're playing with the content and, what's happening, whether you're conscious or unconscious,
Right.
just to help people who are listening, who may be hearing it for the first time. What I think would be really lovely is to say, like, these are the symptoms I experience. We all experience different symptoms, but,
yeah, I mean, I can especially speak to my personal experience. So if I'm backtracking just a moment, so you saw that, or I came from this large family. I always knew that I'd want to be in some sort of healthcare caretaking. I knew I'd want to have children eventually, but my dad's a physician, so I was drawn to helping others, medicine. So I became a physical therapist, and like I said, I loved that career. And in the way that it showed up for me at times, when I was over indexing on wearing this mask, where the mask was actually, like we say sometimes in our work, driving the bus versus, it was in charge. What showed up for me was real lack of boundaries on my part, a lot of burnout, looking back, even physical too. Just really forgetting myself in many ways. So that that would look like me working all day and seeing 12 to 15 patients and maybe forgetting to take a break. That could be a norm for me at times. So that was one of the ways that it showed up in a way that wasn't of service to me. And I think part of identifying these masks is so that they can be of service to you. We don't want to get rid of that. I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but
Right.
It is a beautiful part of me now that I've gotten to know it better. She just gets me in some trouble. And I want to say, I still have to be hyper aware of when this mask takes over.
Right. Because if you think about however many years it was, right? Like, but a solid part of your life that you've been alive, that you were unaware that this thing was just running that you obviously thought it was who you were
Mhm.
for a majority of it. This is, my identity
Mhm.
versus this is, I'm way more than this, but this is a part of me that I like, that can be of service when I choose it, right?
Mhm.
I think so
Mhm.
many of us believe that like how we're externally motivated for things is actually not who we are. But
Mhm.
it can be in such good service, and it can be such a lovely thing to bring forward in the world. But
Mhm.
like, I know, and I've shared this before too, but when I was in caretaker mode and the boys were young, and all kinds of things were happening, I was not taking care of me. And then, you know,
Right.
my appendix ruptured, and, it's amazing how, and my body was screaming at me, right? And
Mhm.
we just keep going because everyone else's needs were more important than our own.
Yeah.
um, I guess that brings
There's
me
a bit
to,
about that that makes me feel like, oh, how did I not know? So there is a little bit of, I think it's, maybe shame that came on, or, because there is a way that investigating these masks, Enneagram, persona, you know, there's a shadow side of it too, that I realized that I had to get to love too, that in some ways I was giving to secure love and to get something, and coming to terms with why that happened, or why I thought that I had to do that. Um, yeah. So I'm just having, I think with it comes some grace of why we started doing things that way. Um, and once maybe you can choose something else. Yeah.
right. And knowing you, it's such a beautiful part of you. Like, I'm just, when you say grace, like just grace for forgetting that you're in charge versus the persona, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
then and then I know you can do this too, but what I love about what we talk about a lot in forum is that we're able to laugh at ourselves about it
Yes.
instead of it being that shameful thing, and to do it with other people in a group is very
Mhm.
freeing, to be able to laugh collectively about our own.
Yes. Yes. And I would say, I think that when you're in, not, I think, I know that when we are, that's the beauty of having learning partners like you, and a group that you can help remind me of my blind spots, when I'm forgetting, because each of these masks has blind spots as well, that you just can't see. So we talk a lot in group about holding up the mirror for each other, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a little bit of a 30,000-foot view, what do you think the biggest blind spots are for, whether what you've personally experienced or what you've seen in forum, that would be used, either or would be useful to hear.
Yeah, that's a great question with the caregiver specifically, right?
Yeah, with a
Yeah.
caregiver.
Yeah. So big blind spots are that I have needs in the first place. And it almost feels silly, but it's a blind spot for me, to know that um, I have some feelings and needs. Now, granted, I've been working on this a long time, so this is probably my life's work here, right? But part of the caregiver, um, the two Enneagram, is to, it's called pride. And it's not pride in the sense that we think of it necessarily, conventionally. It's more of like so self-forgetting that you believe at some extent I don't actually have needs and others go ahead of me. Um, so that's a blind spot for me,
Would
for
you
sure.
like to share the acronym that was created,
Oh,
for an
fun.
order of operations as a reminder for the blind spot?
Yeah. So if we're going a layer deeper too, and what you're referring to, well, in growth, I actually, first of all, for whoever's listening, I think if you're interested, Enneagram's a great tool to just get to know and love yourself more, understand yourself. And so in stress, you go to one point. In growth, you go to another point. So when I am actually, you referring to SHEB, right?
Huh?
Is that the acronym SHEB?
No, I was referring to um, me first, then you, MF.
Oh, yeah, you helped me with that one. Oh, I have all kinds of acronyms. I was like, there's no, wait, you may want to
See,
edit out that part.
this
Okay.
is how language gets really like, here I
I,
was like, yes, this is our acronym, because I was
okay.
like laughing because that's the acronym I needed to be reminded of in
I
learning
love
as
that.
well.
Okay.
Yep,
Edit
yep.
that out. So one of the, okay, so what you're referring in one of our exchanges, I have this whole outlook when I'm in the trance of my mask. When the mask is choosing me, I'm always you first, then me. So that's one way this shows up in my life. And I think it was you, Anne, that might have said, what if you flipped it, me first, then you? So when I am moving toward growth, I actually prioritize my needs first. And then I tend to everyone. And so that is a big part of my coaching when I'm working with women and men, to how can I fill my cup first so that I'm overflowing with energy, love, time to give to you. So yeah, that's the acronym you're talking about. But when I'm wearing the mask of caregiver, it's always you first, then me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, Anne, from personal experience, that's exhausting. That's the
Mm-hmm.
cost of it,
Yeah.
physically, energetically, emotionally, to the point where for me, what it showed up like was resentment sometimes too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Feeling like, why isn't anyone understanding what I need when I can so easily tune into what their needs are? So as I started waking up to these patterns, it wasn't a love affair immediately with these parts of me. There was a lot that came up for me initially, and um, having to learn how to communicate better with those around me, because I assumed since my superpower was tuning into what everyone needed before they even knew, they should do the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did that play out with levels of connection for you? Because I mean, no matter what mask you're wearing, if you're overdoing it in any way, you're actually, in theory, creating some disconnection for the very thing you want, right? And so, since you've been able to play with taking it off, or
Mm-hmm.
I would just say prioritizing better, like, because it's always a part of you. It's not like it's like, you just pick up and put down, because I think it's the essence of who you are. But give us an idea of like what it allows in your relationships that wasn't there when you were just energetically all in and they were just receiving. Because
Yeah. Such a great question. Well, it just such allows for such deeper connection and reciprocity. People want to give to me and help me, and I was blocking that, and there's a level of grief with that I wasn't letting people love me. So, I would say it's clunky in the beginning when I was realizing things, as like with our work, when we start identifying. First, I realized the racket I was running and the patterns with that came a lot of sadness and anger at myself. And how did I let this go on? And then with our work, it's identifying these awareness, identification of patterns, and then just some sweet acceptance for myself eventually came. And that's where the shift came. And allowing me to be vulnerable. So with relationship, asking people for help, which was like so foreign,
mm-hmm.
letting them vulnerably know that I need things directly. It can still be very hard for me to do that. Um, Getting in touch with my needy one and my needy side. I hid her for so many years. And then the transition from, again, this is a work in progress, but from pride that I don't need anything, I have no needs, to humility of, yeah, I do have needs. And also humility that everyone will be okay if I don't take care of them.
Mm.
That was, and I had some really hard knocks and lessons in life that I believe were purposeful to sideline me, um, medically and otherwise, where I couldn't help people, um, and learned that they got along just fine without me. There's a big lesson learned in there. And also that, if I'm helping so much, I'm robbing people of their growth. I'm robbing them of their empowerment. So there were some real there continues to be beautiful lessons that come forth. I have two children, as you know, that there people have a path, and I was getting in the way of their path.
Mhm. And caregiving, caretaking is such a natural thing for a mother. Like,
Mhm.
and it's so easy to do. And I guess I'm thinking of this in terms of boundaries, right? Because like as they change each level and they grow, I
Mhm.
mean, one of the things that I struggled with was, I mean, letting go, obviously, but also setting the boundary of trust that it's not mine to do anymore, and like
Yeah.
having a trust in that. And I'm just, curious what your experience has been. Your kids are, so my boys are in their 20s, and your girls are just a little
Mhm.
bit behind. But um, since it's such a strong persona for you, just curious what you had to say on that, and any wisdom for all the women who like, I'm doing it out of love, but
Mhm.
it's love without boundaries. And so that seems to be super alive. And I see that a
Yeah.
lot,
I
and I
mean,
appreciate it. Right. It's not like I understand it, but I also think, oh, if I'd only,
yeah.
it's like creating something you wish you had had. I was like, oh, if someone had just tapped me on the shoulder to say,
Yeah.
actually, you just need some better boundaries.
Yeah. And I think there's an evolutionary part of it all because, and even hormonally, as we're, aging, that we were, when you have babies and when you have, you are a caregiver, they are solely reliant on you, right? And so obviously our children are growing and then they learn to make their own decisions. um I love what you're pointing at because my kids are 21 and 14. A prompt for myself often is something that you said, what's mine to do? It's so easy to stay in those automatic go-to patterns, as we talked about, where I can just do it for her. I can figure it out. And then she doesn't have to work as hard or make it easier. And it could be my child, it could be my husband. Um, so, a good way to interrupt myself, and I think a big part of conscious leadership and the work we're doing is to really accurately see your patterns so that you can put a pause and maybe choose something else. So it's really easy, though, to get in the trance of your dance or your pattern. So
Hmm.
asking what's mine to do is really a great question to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard. When I was just just to share, like, so when Joe got sober in 2012,
Hmm.
I shifted to the kids, to wanting
Hmm.
to protect them because I
Hmm.
was horrified that I had been a participant in an environment, because it was, a co-creation of an environment, and went to protect them in my head, and out of love,
Hmm.
with, I would say, not clear boundaries.
Hmm.
And oh gosh, it's just amazing how fast we think we've kind of gotten through something, and then we go somewhere else and we just redirect it without being aware
Yeah.
of what's going on. And with the love of kids, I would say that, just to share, is like spousal thing is one energy, but protecting and taking care of those kids, I know from my experience, was like, it was deep fear that I had done something that had caused harm, and
Yeah.
that ferocious protector in me was just, you know, totally went into her lane to do many things that she shouldn't have done, and I did it all out of love. And I just think,
Hmm.
that was obviously for me to learn and for me to kind of honor, but it's
Yeah. I want it again,
it's
like I
easy to
just,
fall into it as a mother's, and I'm sure as a father too. can't speak to
Yeah.
them because I'm the mother, but it's hard not to get drawn in by it. Is I also just want to honor that
I want to honor that.
because I
I
did
still get
time and
drawn
time
into.
again, and I still do. Right?
I want to honor. I still get drawn in, and I have a tiger mom mask. If I just call her that, or and it's I will protect my kids at all odds, and she still shows up. And the idea is, well, and I just want to pause and honor that part of you because it is honoring these parts and grace for. If I knew better, I would have done differently. I was always doing the best that I could with what I had under duress.
Mm,
So that, and that we don't want to, I think what's really important to note, and for anyone who's listening, we don't want to get rid of these parts. They all have such beautiful golden essence that make us who we are, that we get to choose, their beautiful golden qualities versus perhaps when we talk in our terms of below the line, when I'm really reactive, like I don't choose, it sort of chooses me and takes over. So I guess what I wanted to just circle back to is that the more I've done this work, the more I just have self-awareness when she shows up, my caregiver. And
yeah.
I thank her and thank God for her. She really stepped in and did a lot of important things for me, for my family. And when she's over directing, there's a real cost to me. So it's the both and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's the beauty of being maybe how are we going to age ourselves at the moment? Middle age, hopefully. You're not. You're younger
Very
than
young.
me.
Yes.
Sorry, but the wisdom to be able to be in this place and to be able to laugh at this, what it
Mhm.
once felt like a serious life or death situation. I'm just super grateful to even the ability to like kind of cringily be like, gosh,
Yeah.
me too.
And I feel like, no, I want to own and honor. We are middle aged.
Yeah, I know we
We
are.
live a really long time because that comes all of this. We had to go through that path to get to where we are now. And so we can look back at it with some wisdom. And, I think our children are going to go through their own path. And maybe with this awareness, maybe I won't interfere so much. But if you ask my kids, they probably say I still interfere. It is all born from love, but at least we might know we're doing it with some awareness.
Totally. Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. I guess I have one final question and thought or
Mhm.
thing for you is there's always something that you would have loved to have shared that the person didn't ask, or in the conversation, you're like, oh, I wish they would have asked me this because it feels super alive. Is there anything, regarding your experience with a caregiver mask or Enneagram 2 that like,
Mm,
is there anything that we didn't touch
yeah.
upon that would be a difference maker for somebody listening?
Gosh, I didn't. That's a
I
good in the moment. I noticed them like a little emotion behind my eyes. And, in group, we've been talking a lot about the love story. And I think this is part of it, coming home to yourself and just really, I'm feeling a lot of gratitude and love for my caregiver is what it's
Mhm.
coming down to. And um, thanking her for working so hard. Um, and just really grateful for this work that it's allowed me to get in touch with those parts of me. Yeah, so I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude, and what I want people to know if they're listening is that I guess it's never too late to come home to yourself,
Mm.
start the process um, of really feeling truly alive and loving yourself, and from place, um, that place, then you can fully give. So I would say to all the caregivers out there,
Yeah.
you have such capacity for love and taking care of. And if you just turned a little bit of that toward yourself, how infinitely your capacity to give will get, starting with me first, then you, as we just talked about. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your wonderful wisdom and with us today. And I know that it will be a gift to whoever gets the chance to listen.
Hopefully. It was a gift to talk to you, and always a gift. Again, just talking about it helps me come home to myself. Yeah.
Right. No shame, just a little bit of laughter and maybe a couple cringes.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Most people don't realize they're wearing a mask, which hides their true power without even knowing it. But the people you work with, your friends, your family, and the world need you to step into the power of your authentic self. Take our free mask assessment to uncover which of the 15 masks you are unconsciously wearing that shapes your life and how you can start to break free. Start your journey at akeypartners.com and step into the power of your authentic self.